Hey guys, we're back here in the shop. We're going to go over another pistol disassembly, reassembly. Super easy one. These are all the tools we're going to use to disassemble this gun. They're not complicated at all. This is an W Seecamp. Very fine made pistols. To my knowledge, they are all handmade, hand assembled type things. At one point there was a waiting list to get a hold of them. They're great little pocket guns. This particular one is in 380. Have to have the magazine in it to pull the slide back, and they are pretty stiff in these 380s. The magazine, I've stripped that already. They come apart just like any other magazine. You also have to have the magazine in to fire it or to get the hammer to draw back. They're nice. They do have a double strike capability, so you don't have to always do the tap rack bang if you get a hard prime or something like that. We're going to start off real easy. Taking the slide off, if you notice, there's a little hole right there in the slide. We'll be using that, but you have to keep the slide back a little bit and holding this big heavy spring because it's a 380 or really any of the other ones. The easiest way is to take a spent casing. Here I have actually, it's a dummy round, but what we'll do is we'll bumblefuck around with this slide. Stick your spent case in right there, and what you get is this little tab that's in there now that you can see, and you can take your little punch, push in and up on it to lift the slide. When you've got it punched in, and you can feel it in there, it doesn't take a ton of pressure, but you'll see that the slide is lifted up a little bit. Take the slide and pull up, and don't let your little round fall out. Pull forward, slide comes off, recoil springs. Now, the ejector, this little guy right here, excuse me, the extractor, it's just a little roll pin. I'm not going to knock that out. Most everything in this slide, don't pull it out. They're kind of staked in, so unless you're actually replacing parts in here, like the pocket fuzz in there, that guy brought it in. It's got a bunch of rust and stuff on it too. I'm going to try and clean up. The firing pin comes out. There's a little firing pin plate back here. You can see that kind of wiggling around, but it's staked down in there, so unless you have to replace something in here, don't pull that out. The rest of it comes apart real simple. Take the screw out of the grips. Comes out. That side plate here is going to want to pop out pretty quickly, but same thing, the other grip just comes right off there. And the side plate, just lift up on it and keep your thumb on this little spring here, and that side plate will come off. You can see the hammer strut there, or excuse me, trigger bar wanted to pop out. Spring comes out, rotate it up, it slides off, trigger bar comes right out. Obviously now the magazine can come out. We don't need that. Your magazine disconnect, your trigger, and now that's all that's holding the rest of the part here. Besides, that's that little detent that you've got to push in to get that slide to come out. It's held in by a roll pin. Same thing, don't drive that out unless you actually have to replace something in here. Main spring and its follower, hammer strut here, hammer, real simple. This guy, if you press in just a little bit, take the tension off the spring, you can push him out. The pin pops right out. Retain this. This is going to want to go flying. That's why I hold it with my thumb. Dump it out. You've got your spring and your follower there. Now your pin to your hammer should just push right out, and the hammer comes out. Oh, you got to get that strut to, there we go. Hammer comes out, and that's it. That's literally all there is to this gun. They're great little pistols, super simple. I'm gonna clean this up and try and knock as much of this rust off this thing I can, get it clean, get it lubed, put it back together, and call the guy and let him know it's ready to go. It goes back exactly the same way. Another note too, the pin that holds the hammer strut, it's staked in, so unless you're replacing something, don't screw with that. but you can just slide the hammer back in there, move your strut down, align your hole, big fat pin, because I can see down in that hole, I know it's aligned, goes in, put your finger underneath so it doesn't slide out while you're trying to do the rest of this, take your spring and follower, push it up there, and make sure your strut falls into the little detent. The orientation of your magazine catch goes in just like this. That's all the room you've got. Again, put your thumb, you can align your hole. You might have to wiggle just a little bit, but the pin should go through without any issues. The pin that captures your magazine release and the spring and all that there needs to be kind of even. It rides in these holes here on the grips and helps align the grips. But the hammer pin, you want to push all the way over because that's what your trigger bar, or excuse me, your side plate's going to go into. But trigger goes in, your magazine disconnect, there's a little groove, I think you can see it right there. That little groove is where the leg of that spring rides in when it gets in the gun, so it rides in like that. But it's easy enough. A little hole there. Stick that guy in there. And you can take your trigger bar and get it up around the little sear nub there. You can take your spring, rotate it in, and it fits in that little hole on the back of the trigger bar, just like so. Your side plate, now on the pin that holds the trigger in, you can see there's a little cutout groove there. That helps retain the side plate. So stick it on there and bring it back and just line it with those two deals there. And now you can just take your grip, put it right back over the side there, your other grip goes on, make sure it's all in there, your screw, screw that little guy in. Another thing you're going to kind of need to know is that you are going to have to put the magazine back in it, because remember, you can't pull the trigger bar didn't want to sit all the way in there. There we go. There we go. You have to be able to draw the hammer back, but you've also got to keep the stupid friggin' trigger bar on there. And there we go. Take your recoil spring and just slide it back on like this. Draw your hammer. All of the woes right now. But you can draw your hammer back just enough and just squeeze the slide down on top whenever you're trying to override that little detent. And if you need to, you can push it down just a little bit with a punch. Alright, and it just snaps right back on. And that's it. That's the whole disassembly, reassembly. And like I said, these magazines, they come apart like any other magazine. You know, you pull the end plate off, put your spring and your follower out. That's it. That is literally all there is to this gun. I know it's a super long, super exciting video, but yeah, let me know what you think. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know, dude.